Have you ever wondered how your daily activities can impact the world? It's a thought that may cross your mind as you sip your morning coffee or drive to work. We're here to discuss a topic that's on everyone's lips: climate change. It's not just in the hands of scientists or politicians, it's about every one of us every day. It's about the choices we make, the lives we lead. Indeed, the world's climate is changing, and we are the key players. To understand our current situation, we must turn back the clock. Let's journey back to a pivotal point in human history, the Industrial Revolution. This was a time of remarkable innovation and progress, but it was also the dawn of a significant problem: climate change. In the mid-18th century, the Industrial Revolution roared to life. It was a period of rapid industrialization and urbanization, and with it came a dramatic increase in the use of fossil fuels. Coal, oil, and natural gas became the lifeblood of this new era, powering factories, heating homes, and fueling transportation. However, as these fossil fuels burned, they released greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. These gases, primarily carbon dioxide and methane, began to accumulate, creating an insulating layer around the Earth. This layer traps heat from the sun, preventing it from escaping back into space, a phenomenon we now know as the greenhouse effect. While the Industrial Revolution was the start, the greenhouse effect wasn't fully understood until the 19th century. It was then that scientist John Tyndall discovered that certain gases in the atmosphere trap more heat than others. Following his work, in the late 19th century, Swedish scientist Svante Arrhenius proposed the theory of global warming. He suggested that human activities, specifically the burning of fossil fuels, could increase the Earth's average temperature. Arrhenius's theory was largely ignored at the time, but as the 20th century rolled in, the world began to take notice. The average global temperature started to rise, glaciers began to melt, and weather patterns started to shift. Scientists across the globe started to connect the dots, realizing that our industrial progress was altering the Earth's climate in potentially dangerous ways. The dawn of climate change had arrived, and it was only the beginning. The actions that fueled our progress were now the very ones threatening our future. As time went on, we began to understand the consequences of our actions. And now, we're left to grapple with the reality of a warming world. Scene script. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the effects of climate change are now impossible to ignore. We live in a world where the impacts of climate change are no longer distant threats, but part of our everyday reality. From the snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas to the sunny beaches of Miami, the signs are as clear as day. Glaciers, the majestic remnants of the last ice age, are melting at an alarming rate. In the past century alone, we've lost over half of the world's glacier volume. As these icy giants retreat, they leave behind a trail of challenges. For one, they contribute to rising sea levels, which threaten to submerge low-lying islands and coastal cities. But that's not all. The loss of glaciers also means the loss of a vital water source for hundreds of millions of people. From farmers in the Andes to city dwellers in Asia, the disappearance of glaciers spells a future of water insecurity. Moving on from the frozen landscapes, let's talk about weather. Our planet's weather patterns, which have remained relatively stable for thousands of years, are now more unpredictable than ever. We've seen an increase in the frequency and severity of weather events. From scorching heat waves that set new temperature records to devastating floods that displace millions, our weather has become a wild card. And let's not forget about our planet's diverse wildlife. From polar bears in the Arctic to coral reefs in the tropics, countless species are feeling the heat. Changes in temperature and precipitation patterns are disrupting their habitats, threatening biodiversity and pushing many species to the brink of extinction. Lastly, we must consider the human societies bearing the brunt of these changes. Climate change isn't just an environmental issue, it's a social issue too. Rising temperatures and extreme weather events are exacerbating poverty, driving migration, and fueling conflict in some of the world's most vulnerable regions. The cost of inaction is becoming increasingly clear. The time to act is now. Our future and the future of countless species hangs in the balance. Understanding the science behind climate change is key to tackling it. So let's get our science caps on and delve into the heart of the matter, the greenhouse effect. Picture Earth as a giant greenhouse, with the atmosphere acting as the glass walls and roof. The sun, our primary source of energy, radiates heat towards Earth. Most of this heat gets absorbed by the Earth's surface, but some is reflected back towards space. Enter greenhouse gases, water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. These gases act like a thermal blanket for Earth. They absorb the heat reflected off Earth's surface, preventing it from escaping into space. This natural process, known as the greenhouse effect, is essential for life, keeping Earth's average temperature at a cozy 15 degrees Celsius. However, human activities have tipped this balance. Deforestation, for instance, reduces the number of trees that absorb carbon dioxide. Simultaneously, burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas release vast amounts of this gas into the atmosphere. The result? The concentration of greenhouse gases increases, thickening Earth's thermal blanket. The thicker the blanket, the more heat it traps, leading to a rise in Earth's average temperature. This phenomenon, my friends, is what we call global warming. The evidence is compelling. Over the past century, the average global temperature has risen by more than 1 degree Celsius. This might not sound like much, but even a small increase can have significant impacts. It can cause more frequent and severe weather events, disrupt ecosystems, and even lead to rising sea levels. Our actions have set in motion a chain reaction that is altering the world's climate. We've seen hotter summers, colder winters, intense storms, and unprecedented wildfires. These are not random occurrences, but signs of a changing climate. Climate change isn't just a concept, it's a scientific reality. Our understanding of this reality is the first step towards making a difference. We need to acknowledge the role we play in this global story and take responsibility for our actions. After all, the power to shape the future of our planet lies in our hands. Our actions today will shape the world of tomorrow. If we continue down the path we're on, the impact of climate change on our planet's future could be severe. There's a term scientists use to describe the potential for irreversible change: tipping points. These are thresholds that, once crossed, could lead to a domino effect of environmental shifts, forever altering the world as we know it. Imagine, if you will, a future where the polar ice caps have melted away, causing a sea level rise that could sink coastal cities. Picture vast swathes of land, once fertile, transformed into uninhabitable desert. Think about a world where severe weather events are not the exception, but the norm. These are just a few of the realities we could face if we cross these tipping points. The Amazon rainforest, often referred to as the lungs of the earth, is one such tipping point. If deforestation continues at its current pace, we risk pushing the rainforest to a point where it can no longer recover. Instead of absorbing carbon dioxide, it could start releasing it, further exacerbating climate change. Another critical tipping point is the melting of the permafrost. As the permafrost thaws due to rising temperatures, it releases methane, a potent greenhouse gas. This could set off a vicious cycle. The more the permafrost melts, the more methane it releases, which in turn accelerates global warming, leading to even more permafrost thawing. And let's not forget about our oceans. Acidification and warming of the oceans could lead to the collapse of coral reefs, threatening marine biodiversity. And if the ocean currents that distribute heat around the planet were to change, it could drastically alter our climate. These potential futures are not set in stone. They're predictions based on current trends, but they serve as a stark reminder that the stakes could not be higher. Our actions, or lack thereof, have the power to shape the future of our planet. The choices we make today could determine whether we cross these tipping points. The future is in our hands. We have the power to make a difference. Yes, you heard that right. Each one of us holds the power to combat climate change, to turn the tide on this global crisis. It's not just about the big corporations and the governments, but also about us, the individuals. Let's talk about how we can wield this power, shall we? First off, we can reduce our energy consumption. How? By making small changes in our daily lives. Turn off the lights when you leave a room, unplug devices when they're not in use, use public transport or carpool when possible. Small steps, big impact. Next, let's support renewable energy. We can do this by choosing services and products from companies that use renewable energy sources. It's a vote with our wallets, and it sends a clear message. We want a cleaner, greener, sustainable world. But it doesn't stop there. We can also advocate for policy change. Let's use our voices to demand that our leaders prioritize the environment, that they invest in renewable energy, that they enforce regulations to reduce carbon emissions. It's about time we hold them accountable. Remember, we're not alone in this fight. We're part of a global community, united by a common goal to save our planet. It might seem daunting, but together we can make a difference. Every action counts in the fight against climate change. Will you join the fight?